Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. Our apologies, it took us a little while to get online, but Shalu and I were just saying this was a complete collaborative effort that we just had in trying to come on together. So, good evening, everyone. I have Shalu with me. Shalu, welcome to the webinar. Welcome to PrePearl's webinar.
Hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with Pearl to talk to you and share our views and maybe hear your views as well on what makes a great collaborative effort come to life in a big organization. So thank you, Pearl, for calling me in. It's been quite an effort to get on, but I hope it will be worth the while for all those who have stayed on patiently for us to join in today.
Yes, no, will do. Thanks so much, Shalu. When I had the opportunity of working with Shalu on a particular project, and I've said this before to her. Every time I get off the call from speaking with her, I am always energized, and there are always new insights. There's always something to say. What can be done? And I remember her very strong focus on the ground action, her very strong focus on saying, whatever we're doing, how do we kind of ensure it's really making an impact? How do we ensure it's sustainable? So I am really happy, Shalu, that you have accepted this invitation, because for all of our viewers, just to, I think, have an opportunity to be part of this discussion, to hear you speaking, I think is going to be very, very exciting. So on behalf of all of the viewers also who have joined in, thank you very much.
Pearl is always very kind to me. So all of you who are listening in, wait for me to share some more ideas and further about me. And Pearl's been always nice. So thank you, Pearl, for some great introduction on what I do.
No, not at all. Thanks, Shalu. And I'm going to officially introduce Shalu also. But for all those who are joining us on a webinar, on a PrePearl webinar for the first time, welcome. Fantastic to have you here. And those who have joined us before, welcome back. It's always wonderful to have interactions such as these, where we can really learn from one another's ideas and insights. A little introduction about me. My name is Pearl. I am the director at PrePearl Training Development. And at PrePearl, we really focus on behavioral change management and maximizing potential, really, whether it is at an individual level, the team level, or the organization. We are, of course, very happy to also be the India representatives for Belbin. And it is, I think, in this journey that we really had a chance of working with and interacting with Shalu. Shalu, as you are aware, is the Global Capability Development Leader for Transformation Services at Genpact. She is really known in the industry really for her focus on building a culture of really human-centered design that really accelerates innovation. She's really been a key enabler of building cultures of operational excellence and continuous improvement. Shalu has really understands what goes into building an ecosystem that enables digital transformation capabilities in sales and the sales support team. She has had immense experience in the entire hire to retire cycle, especially at the enterprise level. We're really looking at leveraging, and she's also trained and certified in Lean Six Sigma methodologies, design thinking, and of course, how do you really leverage technology in an organization to really enhance performance? Shalu is a very sought after speaker, and therefore so very happy that she is with us. She has been a speaker at the Oracle Open World sessions at India, also at ATD, which is Association for Talent Development, People Matters, and also Harvard Executive Events. So Shalu, welcome. This is a round of applause from our side, which you cannot hear right now, but welcome again. And what are we going to be discussing today? So what is our webinar really going to be focusing on? The webinar outline, as many of us would be aware, we're really looking at what is the need for collaboration in today's environment? Why is collaboration necessary to meet current and future work environment? We're also going to be looking at what makes collaboration real. We'll then move on to what's the technique in collaboration, what's the how of making collaboration real. And we will also spend some time talking about how Genpact and forward-looking organizations are nurturing a culture of collaboration. We'll also give you a little insight and peek where we'll also share a little bit of a particular aspect and intervention that we worked with Genpact to really nurture this whole aspect of collaboration. And with that, Shalu, I'm not going to keep anyone away from your thoughts and sharing it with us. Good to go whenever you'd like to start off.
Sure. Okay, so thank you so much, Pearl. And collaboration is a topic which everybody likes to talk about. Anybody who's been part of large or small organization, anyone who is actually running large and small teams also understands the value of collaboration. So I thought, what should I start the discussion with? And I know Pearl was like, talk about your experience of what you've done for your own teams and what you've done for the businesses that you support as the talent development lead or the HR professional, as we all love to call ourselves. And as we were thinking through, some stats really stood out, and I thought I'll start with those stats because they kind of highlight the necessity of collaboration in the world today. And I'm hoping you can see the slides as I go through them.
Yeah.
So
yes, we can see the slide.
During my research, I was trying to figure out some of the facts of why collaboration is so important. And one of the things that stood out, of course, through our experience working with teams and people, we do understand its value. But it's quite interesting that a research said that companies that promote collaborative working are 5 times likely to be high performing. And we all really understand from a business standpoint, a high performing team will obviously generate better results than others. And there is enough and much research in the world that shows correlation between teams that are highly engaged and high performance and how they create substantially higher shareholder value. So clearly collaboration is a key lever for organizational success. But what really took me aback, and we again know it by experience, that if you look at large organization-wide change projects, and that change could be a technology implementation, a new way of working, a new company getting acquired, or merger of 2 companies and how we work together, a change in strategy, whatever it might be. There is enough research in the world now that says, and as per PMI, actually, only 26% of all projects succeed. And if you dig deeper, and there is obviously a monetary financial impact of almost 70+% of projects failing every year, there is a massive financial and business imperative for you to focus on making projects successful. Now, this is something that everybody knows, but when you dig deeper, you realize that it's not just about the projects don't succeed because they were technically incorrect. There is a massive body of knowledge that tells you that most projects do not succeed because of non-transparent and lack of ongoing communication. A lot of projects fail because people who are at the core of that change are not involved in that process of being part of that and championing the cause of change. It is also highlighted that sometimes, and a lot of times, you come across leaders being the ones who will sponsor a project, but sometimes you realize that once the initial phase of leaders championship phase is out, their involvement in projects goes down massively, and that impacts the project achieving its desired outcomes and results. And if you dig deeper, all of these things that I'm talking about is linked at the core to being highly collaborative. And if you think about any of the leadership traits research or the research that goes on what makes great leaders, you would realize that gone are the days when we could just bank on the team leader or the head of the company or the functional head to have all his or her knowledge to be the be all end all of how that team or that organization or that function will move forward. Gone are the days that the leaders are expected to know all the answers, and the buck stops with them with respect to decisions. But it is not necessary that they have to be the only ones who have all the right answers. And that's where the power and spirit of collaboration comes into picture. Thanks to the way the world is getting connected, the way technology is completely disrupting the way we live our lives and the way we work in offices. Thanks to those changes in the world and the pace at which these changes are happening, much more than ever in the history of mankind, collaboration and collaborative teams can create far more impactful results for organizations and teams than ever in the past. And clearly, when I say collaborate or perish, it fundamentally means what can we do to make sure that we actually mine collective intelligence and make sure that it is used or channelized in the direction to create value for the end users and the key stakeholders. And sometimes end users are not just the people who get the output of your process, but they are also people who contribute to the input of that process. So collaboration beyond boundaries and collaboration beyond a particular type or department or group or specialization is becoming so much more critical today than it has ever been before, because together we have a chance to figure out ways of using our experiences, our acumen, to beat some of the challenges that are thrown by the technology advancement, by the geographical challenges, by the geopolitical system in the world. So that's really, if you ask me, the crux of why collaboration has become so core to our survival today and being competitive in the world of business. And if I were to move on, a lot of people have a lot of simplified and complicated definitions of what collaboration really means. From my standpoint, there are 5 elements to make collaboration tick. It is trust. So you cannot collaborate, or you can't say that it is collaboration if you don't trust each other or the group that's coming together. There has to be empathy, which means you must have a heightened sense of looking at things from other people's point of view. It is not just your view and your way of working. It is also about, or rather extremely important, to understand things from other people's perspective if you truly believe in collaboration. The third piece is respect. I think this is one of the most fundamental aspect of collaboration. And I think it also touches on all the other 4 elements of what to me collaboration means. But respect is at the core of saying, if you truly want to collaborate and get something done through that collaboration, respect for diversity of ideas, agreeing to disagree, managing conflicts respectfully is at the most important element of collaboration. The fourth piece is having a shared vision. You can't collaborate if you don't have a common goal that you're chasing. So for your collaborative effort to reap results, there has to be an end state, a shared vision that inspires people who come together to work together to get something done. So all of these 4 are good and great, but if the team that comes together does not have a common way of working, and when I say way of working, a lot of companies would have frameworks and structures and templates and presentation formats, as well as sometimes the way teams will work, the way steering committee will come in, the way governance will happen. And most often than not, organizations that can have all the other things but do not put structure and define the way the team will work and deliver results through milestones and charters tends to struggle in meeting timelines and the quality of output that the collaborative effort needs to result in. So to me, it's a very simplified interpretation of what makes collaboration tick. And this is as relevant at an individual level as it is to bring to life in an organization level. And that brings me to the next point to say, if these 5 things have to work together for the success of an individual and a person, what does it mean for an organization? And here is an acronym that we put together, which is real. And to really make collaboration work, it's important, and I will talk about it in a few minutes time, how to make real a reality. But pausing and talking to you a little bit about what real means is, R stands for respect. And I think it's very, very core to any collaborative effort. Respect every person and every idea. Just because it comes from a place where you have your doubts or you have your own preconceived notions about a person or a statement or an idea, that's the first thing that goes wrong in any collaborative effort. So, respect is the first part. Second one is encourage everyone. Collaboration is not a one person or a select few people's problem. Each one of the team members, each one of the member of the organization or the function or the department needs to be equally energized and excited about practicing, the five things that we spoke about: practicing trust, respect, making sure that there is a vision to move towards the end state, following some self-deployed templates and structures. So you have to encourage everyone if you want in an organization collaborative effort to result in exponential results. The third piece of an organization really on the journey of collaboration is we need to accept diversity. And it's not enough if you ask people or do the lip service that I am happy to have different people, different ideas from very diverse backgrounds coming together to solve a problem or achieve a result. It is also to do with making them feel welcomed. It's to do to making them feel included. And inclusion just goes hand in hand with diversity. You can have massive diversity of thoughts, ideas, views, people, but if each of those diverse elements don't feel respected, don't feel encouraged, and don't feel valued enough to contribute, to make sure that they feel that they are contributing to something bigger than themselves, that's a challenge. So you got to make sure that you accept diversity and make people feel included in the process. The fourth one, and the most important one, is leadership endorsement. You cannot delegate collaboration. So, in my experience, leadership endorsement has to be active and all the time. And what I mean there is you need to be leading by example. If I say we are an organization that encourages collaboration, and I am the one who, at the first chance of making a decision, do not involve the team when it is appropriate, or I am leading a particular strategy of go to market to take a product to the end customer, and I'm not working well with cross functional teams in making our strategy come to life, and then I expect my teams to work together, there's absolutely no way that your team is going to do what you expect them to do then. So it's important to be real when it comes to collaborative workforce in your organization. So you can talk about the behaviors and you can talk about the elements of collaboration, but let's move on now to say, how do you make real a reality? And very, very simply, in my personal experience, there are four things that stand out in making real a reality. And I'll zip through four of them, and then maybe we can take a few questions to see if some of you would like to share your experiences or would like to have a clarification question asked. So the first element of making real a reality is to make it part of your culture. And we all know, I mean, Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. In Genpact, we have extended it and we've said culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there is no way that you can actually be honest and true to deliver the promise of what you are envisioning in your strategy if you do not make sure that your culture, your belief system, your value system, and how you actually work every day and make your decisions every day is linked back to what really matters. So if you want to make collaboration an active element and a brand for your teams, for your people, for your leaders, you have to make it very visible as a way of working. It has to be part of your belief system. You can't say that I'm collaborative. And when it comes to decision making, when it comes to recognizing, rewarding your people, when it comes to taking key strategic stands in the works of your business, if you actually behave exactly the opposite, then there is no way that you will have a culture which is truly seeked with respecting the importance and the value of collective intelligence. So that's my action number one. Any organization planning to go on this path or accelerate the spirit in their teams, you've got to make it part of your belief system. The second thing is you got to make it part of your performance measurement and reward system. For very many years, Genpact has a very strong focus on individual excellence balanced with collective or team excellence. And how it gets interpreted is that when we draft our goals, when we draft our key result areas, we explicitly call out team targets and team goals as an essential element of how we reward and recognize leaders in the business. And it just doesn't stop there. Collaboration is a core part of our value system, but equally importantly, we have translated it into the way we reward leaders, into the way we recognize people, into the way we measure people's success in our organization. And I think if you want to make a change, if you want to focus on shifting your team's style of working, you have to incorporate it into the performance measurement system. And I think, being a Lean Six Sigma practitioner, we used to always quote this: what gets measured gets done. And I think nothing works more beautifully as the measurement system tied up with the culture, which kind of gives people how do we recognize and reward people in building a rich career in our organization. And I think that's really important when you're trying to build a collaborative culture in your organization. The third one is we are all growing beyond one office or co-located colleagues kind of systems. We are working out of multiple cities, multiple countries. We work out of different time zones. We actually have very flexible work arrangements now in lots of organizations. Some people work part-time, some people work from home, some people would work on specific days for specific hours, and some people are just working in different parts of the world. And it's so important. And the good news is this, that technology has advanced to a level where you can actually leverage it extensively to bring people closer, to connect and make those or establish those strong relationships by encouraging people to use technology. Now, there are a bunch of tools out there. A lot of our operating systems now come in with collaboration tools. See which one works for you and use that. At a global level, think about it, what LinkedIn and Facebook does. Imagine organizations now are coming up with their own versions of Facebook in their offices to figure out ways for people to connect. Because the reality of the world is, with spike in travel and living cost, with pressure on margins and profitability, everybody wants to control the travel cost. Yet, we don't have to lose the personal touch because we cannot fly down every day for a meeting with somebody. So, very, very important in my experience is to invest in the right technology that brings people together, that allows people to have these connections and discussion. Google Hangout is such an amazing example. Skype is such an amazing example. FaceTime is another example that allows people to connect and see and share and talk as if they were just beside each other. So that's another important aspect. When I talk about technology, I think the other aspect is also how do you encourage or inspire your people to use technology that accelerates exchange of knowledge. Now, one is, of course, orally how you do that. But how do you do that in a written format? How do you do that it becomes part of the tacit knowledge of the organization? And that's where you invest in knowledge management tools. See which one works for you, but you will be surprised that if you invest in technology and just stop it at instant connection, instant collaboration focus only, then you are somewhere losing an opportunity to create long-term sustainable foundation to grow collaborative networks within your organization. So focus on making it easy for people to connect and use technology for that particular purpose. The fourth piece that I personally have found very useful, very important, is to invest in self-reflection tools and learning opportunities. Now, you might be wondering, why am I saying that? How can you teach somebody collaboration? I mean, it's either there or it's not there. But here's what my discovery in the last couple of years has been. The first discovery is this, that human beings don't have intentions to pick up fights with people. And we don't have intentions fundamentally to get chosen to a team and not work towards a common mission. The other day I was in a inclusion workshop, and it was very interesting exercise this person did. And this exercise was all about that when you work together with cross-functional teams, it is our human psyche that while we are all focused on doing what we have to do to contribute, there is a little bit of doubt that we tend to have on other people and their intentions. So I want to put it on record. Nobody has bad intentions. Nobody is a spy in your team who wants to work against the team's success. If you have set up the systems and structures and you have a belief system of collaborative success to be utmost important, you would realize that sometimes people unconsciously assume that somebody is working against me. And in that process, it does not contribute to the aspect of trust, empathy, or respect. And it's important sometimes to use certain psychometric tools or certain 360-degree assessments or some way or format that allows people to just reflect. What is it that they're doing well when it comes to collaboration? And what is it that they can do differently to become a better leader, to become more collaborative, to contribute to collective success of the organization? And I have found this extremely useful. In fact, the case study that we want to share with you today, which I worked with Pearl very closely, was using Belbin as a tool for self-reflection and then building a whole program around it to allow a team in our business to find better ways to work together to achieve the results that they were being measured for. So we'll talk to you about that case study, but at a broad level, when you think about leadership development, when you think about middle management or manager or frontline managers' effectiveness, improving some of those aspects that create results from individuals and from teams. When you think about your leadership competency model, you must make sure that being collaborative and having enough learning opportunities to reflect and learn the techniques to be more collaborative consciously are incorporated in your curriculum to support that kind of shift in your organization. So with that, let me shift to the case study, and I'll invite Pearl to talk a little bit about her side of as she was working with us, and what was the approach and how did she go about helping us navigate that journey. Pearl, may I have you talk a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Thanks, Shalu. And happy to kind of share this experience over here where we worked closely with Shalu's team. This, of course, was a virtual team, and that's why it was also very interesting for us. These were individuals who same team but spread across different geographies. Was to help look at how can this team, not being physically present at the same place, how could we really enhance collaboration amongst them? What we really designed, and what was the most interesting, of course, was the constant connect that we had with Shalu, the HR team, and very importantly, the leader of the team, to understand what is the current scenario, what are aspects that the leader thought also were important. And when Shalu was really talking about the acronym REAL, it's really interesting to see in a way how that kind of, for me, came to life in this experience. This was definitely something that was really leader driven, and I'll start with the step one that's given over here, wherein we leveraged the Belbin team roles for each of the team members to really understand and help them with that self-reflection. What are the strengths that I bring onto the table? what are aspects that I'm not particularly good at. And as Shalu was speaking a little while ago, that reflection and also helping people understand what the team members were bringing onto the table really allowed the whole aspect of respecting the other person and understanding why the other person behaves the way he or she does and beginning to look at it in a new light. I thought what was really interesting about this design was the step two, where really what was done was that there was upskilling of the business leader to be a collaborative coach. And this particular segment was only with the leader to help the leader understand how do you leverage this tool to bring about collaboration within the team. It was basically coaching the leader to say, okay, how can you really take it forward? And in step three, where we actually had the team debrief. So step one allowed for individual reflection. Step three, when we met together, it was basically the leader who was the facilitator and who actually led that discussion of the team diagnosing what are the strengths, what are areas that we need to look at, what are action points that we need to take on, and for them to get insight into why are things panning out the way they actually are currently, and what are some insights that this tool is giving us. The next step was, again, after about 3 weeks, once the action plan was in place for the team and for individuals, to actually have an online reflection sheet. And the online reflection gave the participants an opportunity to, number one, reach out to us if they had any queries, any clarifications, but more importantly, to kind of do a little check for themselves to say, how much have I really worked on the action so far? Am I really conscious of what we had discussed? Are we taking that forward? And that we thought was really key, because when we got in the inputs from people, well, number one, we had about 40% of the participants, and this was a small group, but of them actually responding to every question on the reflection sheet. And what was very interesting was that all of them, so it was 100% of the respondents that said that they were conscious and they were putting into practice aspects and insights that they got from the session. They were conscious of their team role strengths and leveraging them. Having the reflection sheet, I think, really helped with the last bit, wherein again the team got in together. And mind you, all of these sessions, barring step three, were all virtual sessions. And therefore, when the team came together for the strengthening impact and strengthening learning bit, it allowed the team to actually share what has been the difference that each of them has experienced in this journey so far. The journey throughout was approximately about 3 months, where we had about a 2 to 3 week gap between each of the different steps. But the sharing that we got from the participants of them actually saying that, the way they found people responding to one another, the way they realized and they were conscious of what were areas that the team was weak in, and therefore how could they make a contribution to kind of ensure that it does not pull the team down, became really, I think, something that was very insightful for the team and also for us as facilitators to listen in to the impact of the intervention. And of course, what you have on the right-hand side over there was the leader sharing her experience. And I really think for me, what made a difference over here was, number one, that these were capsule small sessions had at regular intervals. And a real control. This was also a multicultural team. And therefore, having a tool and a language to enhance that respect and appreciation of differences and behavioral differences, I thought was also really important. Shalu, your thoughts on, on things that kind of stood out for you in this intervention?
Sure. Thanks, Pearl, for sharing the approach. So, apart from the fact that Pearl was extremely accommodating, and she was extremely open to ideas, because here's the thing. Some of us, when we practice, in our HR roles, we practice organization design, and we are looking at solving core skill challenges or attitude challenges. We tend to design programs and curriculums which tend to be a little heavy on the face-to-face, in-person kind of interventions, and there is space and value for that. And don't get me wrong, it's important to invest there. But given the fact that you need speed, you need action, and you have your 30 people in different parts of the world who are working on paid client projects, and you have to get them together and get them started, you got to have an open mindset to experiment, being virtual in the way you will even deliver the learning content. And I think one of the biggest advantages of doing it the way we did it was, Pearl was extremely open to experiment with us. And I still remember those initial conversations where she said, I would prefer an in-person. Can we try and do it for 8 hours? And then we said, okay, I know this is the perfect way to do, or the ideal way to do, and nothing against it. But what if we try and experiment? So I thoroughly love the fact that our partnership was win-win, because it was not just about we looking at what's the right way to do it, but we were also looking at what will be the most successful way to do something. And we were coming with our constraints, and we were finding ways with the business. In fact, my business partner, who was actually the team leader who invited us to do that, was extremely collaborative with us in discovering new ways of working, and we were highlighting constraints as to what would work and what would not work. And I think that was fantastic, because the participation level from our target audience improved drastically. Had we tried to do, get everybody together in one place, scheduling of that session would have never happened. Two, the cost of running this program would have been exorbitant. And three, the scale at which I wanted to run wouldn't have been possible, because even if somebody said, let's do it, they would have done it only for the DR group. Here, the leader actually got all her 25 to 30, if I'm not wrong, team members together to go through this learning journey. So we kind of put together a journey, if you see step 1 to step 5, which moved from reflection, which is kind of saying, how can I make the unconscious incompetence of not knowing what you do well or what your team does well to come in the way of you collaborating. And when you suddenly realize that, oh, this person behaves like this not because he has or she has a vendetta against me, he or she is doing this because they prefer to work like this.
Brilliant.
And if I can change my style slightly, or I can be a little bit versatile in switching my way of operating, maybe there is a higher probability of both of us achieving something faster, which we are both getting measured for. So I think the second thing that really stood out for me was a heightened awareness and acceptance in the team of what collectively they did well. And I think the biggest aha, and I was discussing with the business leader later, was this, that collectively the team did not just stop at strengths. As part of the debrief, when they were going through and making their action plans, some of them actually highlighted that, oh, you know what? Some of our project teams in smaller clusters that they had broken their larger vision-driven projects into did not have the right team role. So they were like, okay, can I piggy bank on somebody who is not in my team today, but maybe some of the things that person does naturally, can I incorporate them into the way I am operating? Because let's face it, sometimes you just have the people you have, and they might not bring all the necessary team roles to that particular situation to work collaboratively and solve that challenge. But what you could do is this, knowing fully well your strengths and knowing fully well the project needs a particular type of skill or behavior. And if you collectively realize that as a team, you're not doing that, then how do you consciously put a little effort to go beyond and either learn it from others or try and practice it a little too often? And when the TTT got done, or the train the trainer in a way that got done for the business leader for being the coach, that person became a great sounding board of coaching her team to say, you could have done it this way, or I suggest you play that role. And it was quite interesting. The team leader was actually very strong on some of the roles that some of the project teams did not have. And interestingly, one of the reflections she had was, when I do team reviews of the project progress, I will see if I can coach them on some of those aspects and encourage them to practice that. So I would say these were some of the biggest aha moments for me personally, Pearl, as we went through this journey of designing this program and launching it for our people.
Oh, brilliant. I still say this was definitely one of the highlights for me also, in terms of putting together a new design and really addressing the need. Brilliant.
Awesome. Okay, so let's jump from the real and making real a reality to something which is also very very real in our world, and that's barriers to collaboration. Now we all have great intentions. We all want to collaborate because we all see the business value of collaboration, and there is enough literature out there that talks about the business value of collaboration. But this is also equally real that there are certain very big barriers to collaboration, and as a team or as a leader who is encouraging his or her team to be more collaborative because of the business value should watch out for these four. And I'm quoting MIT Sloan research here, and I have a quote, the link out there. So some of you, if you would like to uh, search this, you can actually Google this one, and you will find this. It's a very powerful research. It's good to read as well. It also has a quick questionnaire that organizations can take to know what are the barriers which are active or prevalent in their environment. And then you could possibly, once you have awareness of what those barriers are, you could work towards resolving them. So very quickly, the four barriers as you see in front of them, in front of you, is unwillingness to seek input and learn from others. And this is very classical. I'm an expert. Why should I ask somebody else if I need some input? And in my experience, some of the best and most successful leaders are those who actually don't think they need to have all the answers. So every time they're faced with a challenge, every time they're working on something really strategic, they actually create a network of internal and external team members of their own department and cross-functional or cross-department crack teams. And they actually get those people together to mine the collective intelligence to create something powerful. But this is really real. It does happen in organizations where it's not acceptable if you don't know something. It's actually looked down upon. And then obviously, if you know that your boss will be unhappy if you ask somebody else to give you input, or you learn from somebody, or you take somebody's help to do something differently, then obviously it plays on people's psyche to really openly collaborate with others. The second one is also interesting one. You might have all the good intentions, so you want to seek help. But here's the classical one, and in my view, the easier one to solve is you just don't know where are all those experts in this world. So where do I go when I need help on redesigning my total reward strategy for my sales team? And classically or traditionally, our view would be, okay, I'm going to take an expert in-house, and that guy or that girl is going to make sure that she does the necessary research and produces a document. I'm going to think about implementing it. What we are saying is that when you have an intention, and you might rightly put one person in charge to do that research and get that point of view out, you may need to help people find experts. So investing in the internal collaboration technologies, investing in a solid knowledge management tool, because knowledge is not just about connecting documents and articles and project work summaries. Knowledge is also about residing in your employees. So if you can make sure that you catch hold of converting those personal networks that people create over a period of time of being in a company, and you convert them by codifying them into the system so that it's easy for people to find those experts when they need them, that can be immensely powerful. In Genpact, we also believe, not all the experts have to be working for Genpact as full-time employees. We believe in the collective intelligence beyond the boundary of Genpact. We have a network with actually a lot of experts who are thought leaders in their chosen domain or industry. They're part of our network, which we call Genie. It's Genpact's ecosystem for innovation, and it actually gets global experts together on that network. And we have a team which allows people. So if I'm working on a project and it is all about saying, I want to put together a competency development framework, or I'm in a product development department and I want to put together, a go-to-market strategy, then I can actually reach out to the Genie network and say, is there an expert inside Genpact or outside who can help me with this? And we've tied up with some companies, it was quite surprising to know there are lots of companies out there now which actually create a network of expert and offer those services to you. So create ways for people to connect with each other. And some of the ideas that I was talking initially link back to some of those barriers getting resolved in your organization. The third one is a very difficult one to solve: unwillingness to help. While I say it's difficult to solve, but I can also tell you, if you have built a culture where you reward, recognize results created by teams, where you highlight to people that team works and boundaries don't, where you openly put effort to kill bureaucracy and reduce silos in the organization, where you are encouraging people to feel valued and rewarded because they reached out to help and be helped, you would see that shift happen. But this is also one of the barriers, which is very behavior driven, and it takes time and effort and very conscious leadership decisiveness to deal with it. The fourth one is inability to work together to transfer knowledge. This is pretty self-explanatory. When teams come together, how do you make it easy for them to exchange knowledge, to share knowledge, to build on each other's knowledge, to make sure ideas, irrespective from where they come, they're appreciated and supported? So, four barriers. If you want to check out the web and read this research, there's a very good article, so it'll be very useful for you. I have leveraged it as part of understanding this concept better. And if I were to come to the end of our conversation, in a nutshell, if you really want to make collaboration work, follow these four things and see how you can engage with your people, inspire your people, and make leaders the role models of practicing collaboration, of making sure they make it part of how they reward, recognize, and measure their people's and leaders' performance. And you constantly push for great technology to be leveraged to make it easy for people to find people and to continue on a far more energizing and active synchronous connections with each other. So if you can sit back, and as you think about the talk so far, and if you ask yourself what are some of the things that you're already doing in the company and what are some of the things you would want to get started, I'm hoping this conversation is helping you get some ideas of what you would want to do. And some of the underplayed aspects of training interventions should be thought about, because in my experience, when you encourage people to reflect and get aware of what are some of their strengths and what are some of the collective strengths of the group around them, you see a natural shift in the way they will work with people. And then if you can support them by training curriculum around teaching them human-centered design, teaching them techniques of collaborating in a virtual setup, giving them enough support to interpret frameworks of working together, and the templates and techniques that your organization follows, I think it can be a great combination to create a high-performing organization that focuses on the pillar of collaboration. So with that, we can open up for any questions that might be coming up in the chat, Pearl.
Yes, sure. In fact, we do have a comment and a question. And before I get to the comment, just to let our viewers know that you can put in your comments and the question in the comments section. You will see the comments section just below the video. Yeah. Sorry, in the chat section of your YouTube screen. The question that we have, Shalu, is from Thomas Lobo. And Thomas says that a major barrier to collaboration is the fear of missing out, of getting due for your credit or credit for your work. So a major barrier to collaboration is the fear of missing out or the fear of not getting credit for your work. What would be your comments is what Thomas says.
Thanks, Thomas, for sharing this. And it's a very real thing. If I were to add to this barrier, I would say it's not just the fear of getting the credit for your point of view or your idea or your work. It's sometimes also the fear of, I will become less important if more people know how to do this thing. And so I don't want to share with people what I am doing or how I'm doing things. So it happens all the time. But I'll go back to the initial two suggestions that I had as part of how can you make real a reality. The first one is you have to call out the barriers up front. And there is nothing wrong in actually bringing out some of the challenges that all of us as human beings go through. So the fear of not getting the credit is real. And when you are talking to your teams about being collaborative, call out that fear, because hiding from it or not acknowledging it is not going to help anybody. So if you're thinking about shifting your team's way of working, and you're the leader of that group, maybe you may have a conversation with the team and say, how might we collaborate better, and do a little activity to make everybody realize what are some of the things that the team is doing well as a team, what are some of the things the team is not doing well as a team, and what are some of the things, by the way, other teams are doing well but your team is not doing well. And I have realized in my experience, when collectively teams call out things they do well or not so well, or ideas that others are following and we're not, you would realize there is a heightened sense of saying, oh, our personal moral compass tells us that there's something wrong by behaving like this. So one aspect is, a leadership messaging, endorsement, and actively highlighting that there is no reason to be afraid of your idea being stolen and you not getting the credit, because you have to make sure that as a leader, again, as I said, the fourth point, leader has to actively collaborate, which means when the leader gets an idea from somewhere, how is he or she broadcasting the source of that idea to make the person feel more confident and feel that I am getting the straight credit for what I did, or I'm being made the hero of what I did. And it's not as if my boss or my peer or my direct report is going to take away what I did and not give me the credit. So the more transparent you make the way you work, the more encouraging, the more supportive and recognizing peers become to each other, or DRs become to their bosses, or bosses openly talk about how they contributed. It is all linked back to the second point. If your organization rewards teamwork, you will suddenly see the first thing people will do is, if my organization does not recognize if I do great work alone, and I will only get recognized when I do great work with my team, there is a higher probability, and I'm not going to discount that there will still be such cases and there will still be such people who will behave like that, but there'll be a higher probability of more people openly acknowledging that, hey, I did it with Pearl. I didn't do it alone. I did it with Pearl. And you know what? All of us like to get our limelight. All of us like to become a hero. So if consciously your leaders do that, and then you start recognizing people in global forums, in town halls, in the individual reward system, that when you win and you win with the team and you highlight and recognize that, it pays back to you in multiple personal, material, and sometimes non-material ways. I think there is a hope to solve this challenge that we have. So it's real, Thomas, and there are ways to solve it. It's a slow process, but if it starts from the top and you create a support system like the 4 pointers that I talked about, I think it's possible to break this challenge.
Great. In fact, thanks, Shalu. In fact, even Priya and Russell have also, added and supported what Thomas is saying, and saying that, that really is one of the barriers to collaboration. And I think, as you very rightly pointed, Shalu, the whole bit of actually calling out that fear, because it is so real, calling that out and bringing in transparency, bringing in that encouragement from the leader. And I think also recognizing, as you very rightly said, individual and team performances in an open forum. These are aspects, I think, as leaders, we must take on and consciously do so to kind of, address this barrier. And I'm going to take in, there's one more question, Shalu. I know we've kind of exceeded our time, but if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to read out the last question. Is that fine, Shalu?
I'm perfectly okay, Pearl. We can take that.
Brilliant. We've got a question from Mr. Sudhir Kulkarni. Welcome, sir. He says, how culturally tuned are we as Indians for collaborating vis-a-vis competing? I think this is interesting. Your thoughts first, Shalu. How culturally tuned are we as Indians for collaborating vis-a-vis competing?
Uh, Sudhir, thank you for asking this question. It's the one which is making me think, and I'm thinking not because I don't have an answer. If you look at our Indian political system, and
Yeah,
if you want to put this question there,
yeah,
sometimes I do wonder whether we really have a point or we just
yeah,
connected because we are from a different political thought process.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so you can definitely then at that point or that situation think that
Hmm.
are we really collaborating to make India great?
Yeah.
Um, so I would say it's situation dependent. I have seen, and I'm an Indian, I work in India, but I work for a company which is extremely global. We have a presence in like what 18 plus countries. We work with people who come from different cultures, different ethnicity, different color, creed, gender, all of that. And in my experience that I've had with GE and Genpact, I have never struggled as long as we have respect, empathy, trust, and a shared vision and a common way of working coming in the way of achieving results in a collaborative fashion. I do want to point out collaboration does not mean that you cannot disagree. I
Hmm.
think healthy collaboration happens when you have people who come with different point of views and they can work together to challenge each other and come up and make something more powerful. The problem starts when disagreements or difference of opinion is taken to a personal level of, I personally am not interested in your success. If that happens, that's when it gets vicious. So, so I really believe it's situational, it's environmental, and just as much problems that we see in our country in different areas and spheres, I also see as many stories of collaboration where people have done great things in our country to do massive social change as well. So I would say, we can't make a blanket stand of are we competing or challenging or collaborative all the time. To me, we as a company or as a country need to be far more aligned. And whenever we disagree, we should disagree with the way or maybe the outcome, and then work together to create something more powerful than what it was before. The unfortunate part is when people forget that true collaboration needs a shared end state and a strong desire to achieve that end state. When people come together and they come together in a visible format, but their minds are not connected to that end state, then it turns out to be like a blatant exchange of views with no intent to neither solve or progress or achieve the end state. So that's where the problem hits us more often than not. Well, I hope I was
Yes.
as
Yes.
simplistic and as straightforward that I could be on that
Yes, no,
question.
and no, I think, and so true. In fact, I was thinking of when you said that, disagreement does not, disagreement is fine because that's part of collaboration. And I was thinking back, Shalu, at, an experience where someone was telling me about, the indigenous tribes and about the Varli tribe in Maharashtra. And I think this is really true when we look at smaller cultures. And supposedly the Varli tribe, before they actually have, they reap their um, uh, the production of the rice, before they can have the first meal. Supposedly, they actually have a little bit of ceremony also, where they kind of they ask for forgiveness of one another in case, during that whole time when they were working together, if they kind of hurt anyone. And I thought that's really interesting because I think as individuals and as people, I keep saying man is a social animal. We need society, to live and to do well. And I really do think that if we really put our minds together and we really embrace life-giving values, there's so much that we can do together as compared to just one person doing it alone.
Completely agree with you.
Great. No, that's fantastic. I'm checking to see in case we have any other comments, but thank you so very much, Thomas, Mr. Kulkarni, for your inputs, Russell, Priya, for the comments. I know we've kind of exceeded time, but it is brilliant to see that I think mostly everyone who joined us right from the beginning continues to be with us, is part of the conversation. Shalu, I think the whole aspect on collaboration is a need of the hour, whether you look at it from the perspective of society or needs real to bring it to life. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to do a little bit of reflection, and also for us to say, okay, what are key points we want to take on in our circle of influence to take this forward.
Sure. I'm really excited that I got this chance to share my views and my experience, and I hope it is useful for folks who joined us today. And it was amazing to be here with you, Pearl, and share our stories together. So thank you. Thanks once again, everyone, for joining us today and talking to us about it.
Yes, thanks so much, Shalu. And thank you, everybody. We will also be sending you a link to the video so you all can check it out, go through it in case you've also missed a bit of it. Thank you for being with us, and a very good evening to everyone. Thanks, Shalu.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.